Hi there. So hopefully you had a little fun making some puzzle cubes, and we're going to go to the second part of the video coaching session here. So in this second part, we're going to focus on a couple more advanced features and also understanding what's going on and what controls we can exert over our command hierarchy, which is in the left-hand side here. So the part that we're going to be making is a tombstone. I'm calling this the green tombstone. Okay, so green tombstone part, I'm going to spin it around in space so you can kind of get an idea what it is. So it's like a little tombstone. Got a hole in the center, notch down at the bottom. And then these two outer edges here are rounded. That's an operation that we call filleting, or a fillet. And I'll show you how to do those as well. After this exercise, you should be pretty well prepared to tackle any of the parts that are in assignment number 2. So let's get started. This is the part that we're going to make, and as in the process of making this, I'd like to show you how to exert more control over some of these functions. So go ahead and make yourself a fresh page, and we're going to start by sketching. I like the front plane. You're not confined to sketch in the front plane, but it just sets up your X, Y, and Z axes. So X and Y, right, are kind of like they are in math class when you're sketching in the front plane. I'm now going to go ahead and create a rectangle. I'm using the center rectangle tool. And I'll go ahead and say that this is actually a square of dimensions 1 by 1. Okay, and I'm using my Smart Dimension tool. There's 2 ways to get out of this right now. I can click on OK here, or I could just click on that. It would take me out of the Smart dialog box. Now I need to add that tombstone arch onto the top. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to use this arch feature, or arc feature. If I click on this, there's actually 3 sub-options. Just like we had options under making a rectangle, right? We have options under how to make an arc. The type of arc that we're going to make that top piece is actually called a tangent arc. And it sort of tells you again how this is going to work. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to click your number 1 point is going to be a point which is tangent, right? So I'm going to click there. And you can see this curve starting to form. It's going to come over to the other side. I like how that looks. I click OK. All right, now I need to do some erasing. So the best way to think of what you're doing here when you're sketching in 2D is all the sketching that we've been practicing in class, right? That's one reason why we do a lot of it. You'll notice when we're sketching, we're tending to make a lot of construction lines or lines that we need to go back and erase. So that tombstone is going to have as its outer edge this top arc, this guy here, this guy along the bottom, and this one. This line in the middle here is not going to be there, so we actually have to get rid of that. There's 2 ways to get rid of it. I'm going to show you how to do it with the Trim Entities function. So if I click on Trim Entities, you want to make sure that you've got this selected trim to closest. Okay, there's Power Trim and a couple others. I always use Trim to closest. Okay, and this acts like sort of a magic eraser. So it's basically going to, when you click on it, when you left click, it's going to delete any lines. And I'm going to go ahead and delete these construction lines. So it's a really powerful tool because it trims things out. All right, so I've got my tombstone outer part. I'm now going to actually go ahead and make that hole that goes in the center. So if you think about this, that hole goes all the way through the part. So if I draw it here and then do an extrude function, I should be able to do all this in one step. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my circle. I'm using my circle tool here for the first time. So there's several options for the circle tool. You can do a perimeter or a center and a radius. I would say probably 90% of the time I do a center and a radius. So I'm going to click there and drag out a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and Smart Dimension. It'll Smart Dimension my diameter. This symbol here is a diameter symbol. And I'm going to go ahead and make that a nice even 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to click OK. So this exercise, folks, is meant to be paused. So if you need to catch up, I'm moving at kind of a nice clip. Go ahead and put me on pause, catch up, rewind, do whatever you need to do. Okay. So I've got the outer edges here of my tombstone, and I'm ready to actually now extrude. So I exited my sketch. I'm going to click on Extrude. And you can see that, again, it's smart. It says, hey, you drew this, what I think is an object here. I think that was a hole that you had, and this is going to be the solid piece. And I think you want to pull it forward. How far do you want to pull it forward? Well, I want to play around with some of these other options that we have here. Right now I'm doing a blind extrude, so it's pulling it forward from a face a specific distance. And I can make that 1 inch. I could make it a 1/2 inch. I could make it a 1/4 inch, right? I can control how far forward it's going to come. I'd like to actually do a 1/2 inch total, but I want to do it such that it extrudes in both directions at once, right? So this is going in one direction. If I want to flip the direction, I'd click on this guy here. Okay, but let's say I want to keep it symmetrical about the front face. I would go mid-plane, and now the front face is in the middle, and I've got this total thickness. So it's going to be coming forward 0.125 and backwards 0.125 when we do that. But I wanted a total of a 1/2 inch. Okay, so now it's a 1/4 coming forward and a 1/4 going back. And I'm going to click OK. All right. So, looking at where I am and where I want to be, right? You notice the next thing I need is really this little notch down here. Okay, so let me work on the notch. You see here I've got multiple windows open in SolidWorks. That's totally legit. And just like working in Microsoft Word or any other program, you can flip to which one is going to be on top. All right, so let's now do that cut down here. We can do it a couple different ways. So the way that we've been doing it is we have been going and saying, okay, I'm going to sketch. I'm going to sketch on this front surface. Let's say I do a rectangle, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that back, right? So I would come over and I would extrude cut, and I'm going to go through all of it, and there's my window, okay? So that is one way to do it. I'd like to show you how to do this by going back and editing your original sketch. Okay, so this cut-through feature is the same type of operation as this hole, right? It goes all the way through the part. Therefore, I could have included this on the original sketch and then done one extrude operation. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I first want to show you, you can delete these functions. So if I want to go back, I don't have to do Control-Z, Control-Z, Control-Z back. I can control where I'm going off of this menu bar. I can also just completely eliminate steps. So if I highlight this, then right-click, and then I go to delete, this whole thing is going to be wiped out. Delete the following item, yes. What winds up happening when I do this, though, is there's actually something, this is called an orphan sketch. So this sketch is doing nothing right now. So I can go ahead and do the same thing and just delete that sketch. Okay, so watch out for orphan sketches. You may have generated some of those already as you've been making puzzle cube practice parts. Okay, so I mentioned I want to do this in the sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down here. You notice this shows me a record of everything I've done in this part, right? So I sketched first, I made this tombstone shape, then I extruded it out to create the tombstone. So if I go here to sketch and I right click, this guy here is edit sketch. This is going to pull me back into that sketch and allow me to make changes. Okay, so right now I'm back into that sketch. I'm going to view this sketch dead on, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that notch. I'm using the center rectangle feature. I'm allowing SolidWorks to pick for me the midpoint of this line, and then I'm creating a rectangle. And let's say that I want this guy to be a total of 0.25 by 0.25. Okay. Problem is, this bottom part here, I have to do a lot of erasing again, right? Which is the same problem I had when I made this top arc. So let me go ahead and use my Trim Entities feature, and I'm going to delete, 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 delete. Oh, it's mad at me for that, but delete, find SolidWorks. Okay, and there we go. This is just a point in space. You don't have to worry about that. I'm going to click OK. There's my sketch. You notice I can rotate in one-dimensional or 2D space too. That's not what I wanted. Hello. Where are we? There we are. There's the front of space. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to exit the sketch, and SolidWorks is so smart. Okay, so SolidWorks automatically repeats the extrude step with my new sketch, right? So that puts that in there. All right, that was great. So let me now compare to where I wanted to go. So actually, let me save. I haven't saved yet, so let me save. I'm going to call this Green Tombstone Reverse Engineered. There we go. All right, so let me look at what I wanted to do and see what other edits I might need to make. Oops, that is part 5. I don't want that. Where are you, Green Tombstone? There it is. Okay, so the first thing is this looks a little thinner, right? So this is actually a 1/4 inch, and on my part I was at a 1/2 inch. And then I also have these rounded edges down here at the bottom, which I told you are called fillets. And then obviously it's green. So those are the 3 changes I need to make. So let's go through and do those while I show you a couple other things. Okay, so back to my part. So first off, it's a little thick, right? So that extrude command that I did is a little too big, so I need to go back and change that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the command. So I have a sketch, and then I did a command on it. What I want to change is actually the operation, the command. So I'm going to right-click. I'm going to go to Edit Feature. And now I'm going to say instead of a 1/2 inch, I want a 1/4 inch. It's going to go back and do it. Okay, so it allows you to go back and edit your part. This is a very powerful thing. Okay, you don't have to start all over again. You can just directly edit. So that's the correct thickness. Now let's see about adding those fillets. Okay, there's 2 ways to add fillets. Let me show you first the way to do it in 3D, and then we'll go back and we'll do it with it in our 2D sketch. Okay, so I'd like to round this edge and this edge, right? And the rounding is actually going to be 0.1 inches, folks. That's kind of like a medium level rounding to just take the sharp edge off. So the command I'm going to use in 3D is fillet, and I can actually do this directly. So fillet, there's different types you can select. The common type that we're going to use is this guy here. You could prescribe the radius of the fillet. So I'm going to stick it at 0.1 inches, and then I'll show you what it looks like if it's a bigger fillet. So I'm going to click on that. That's the edge I want to fillet. And this is also the edge I want to fillet. And then I click OK, and it's going to round it for me. So that did the rounding for me automatically. All right. I promised you I'd show you that this could do different sizes. Let's go with a much bigger fillet. So let me do a, I don't know, 0.25 fillet. That's a really big fillet. It's more like a corner, right? So that takes off a lot of material. Okay, so you can see how you can manipulate the fillet. Go back to 0.1. Click OK. All right, so you can also do these type of rounded edges in the sketch itself, so in a 2D operation. So let me show you how that works. In order to do that, I first want to just get rid of this entire 3D command. So I'm going to right-click and delete. Do you want to delete it? Yes. Okay, and I'm going to go back and do that thing I did before, which is I'm actually going to go edit this sketch. Okay, and now I'm going to use this feature. So this also says fillet, but it's sketch fillet. So this is in 2D. So I'm going to click on that. It's already set at 0.1. And then what this asks me to do is actually select corners that I want to fillet. So I have to select 2 lines at once. I click OK, and there it's been rounded. Click OK again, exit the sketch. There are my rounded edges. Okay, so 2 ways to do a fillet, folks. One is a 3D operation, and one is a 2D. All right, I promise you that we would also talk about how to do some colors. So if you want to color your puzzle cubes, now's the time to do it. The way to do this is to actually go here. So there's some other controls. There's tons of controls in SolidWorks, right? So here's another set of controls. This one is for appearances, scenes, and decals. We're going to just use it to color the object. So if I select this guy, first thing that's going to come up is this menu. You want appearances, which is color, and then it has all these various surface finishes, right? Fabric, okay, there's all kinds of weird stuff, metal, all right? So the one that gives you sort of a uniform look, honestly, is plastic. So we're going to go plastic, low gloss, and then I'm going to pick a color. So you've got sort of grayscale here, and then if I scroll down, I've got others, and then it kind of tells you what to do. Whoops, blah, blah, blah. Drag and drop appearances onto the model or feature tree. I'm going to drag it in, and there it is, it's green. Okay, so that's how you color that object. All right, folks, so that's what I have for you right now. You should be working on your puzzle cubes. You can, with this bit of information that I've just given you, you can start to tackle the problems that are in assignment 2. So all of those objects use these basic features, which are, again, extrude, extrude-cut, fillet, right? And then some of these guys in here, right? Triangles, or I'm sorry, rectangles and circles. Okay, so some basic operations in CAD.